Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. No matter where in the world you're tuning in from, I'm super happy to be here with you today for another episode of The Bold Leap, where we highlight fabulous women who have made the leap into the online coaching space. And today I have my good friend, Jen Bugajsky. I just learned how to pronounce her name properly. Despite the fact that we've been chatting for, I don't even know, for a long, long time now. Welcome, Jen.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, super exciting. Before we get started, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear us and see us. Drop a heart emoji in the chat if you can hear us okay and there's no tech issues. Okay, we're good to go. Well, let's start out, Jen. Let's get right into it. Yeah. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and the work you do in the world?
So a little bit about me is that, I am a mom of 4 young men ranging from 25 to 15.
Wow.
So, yes. So they, in addition to my work, definitely keep me busy and entertained, I should say.
No doubt.
As far as the work that I do, my focus is on helping women heal from religious, sexual, and relational traumas so that they can really fully step into the fullest expression of themselves.
Wow, that's amazing. I have to say that I think that you are the first person that I met that does this kind of work. And so I'm super curious if you had your own bold leap moment, or was there a turning point that led you to this work?
Yes, actually. It's not like I sat there and said, "Ooh, this is the type of work I want to do." It was like I followed the breadcrumbs of desire. In fact, I actually had a nutrition coaching business before this.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, and I had taken a program that I thought was going to up-level my business, and it up-leveled my life and totally transformed who I was and what I was meant to do in this world. And it was like when you say yes to one thing, then new doors start opening. And the pivotal moment was really, it was actually on my 40th birthday. So it was a little over 10 years ago. And I remember my ex-husband and I were in a group of marriage encounter couples. So he and I were very involved in this marriage encounter community where couples would get together and support each other in their marriages. And I remember sharing that I didn't want a marriage like my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And the following day, I went to confession, and I like to say, God sent me what I'll call is the sex dream, because there was this beautiful, gorgeous woman in green lingerie dancing for my husband.
Mm.
And I was like, well, you have a funny sense of humor, God. Like, I want you to come into the center of my marriage, not show some other like sexy woman, right? But the truth is, I was the woman in the dream. But I didn't believe I was beautiful, sexy, gorgeous, powerful, you name it. And it was that moment that I was like, well, why don't I feel that way? Like, what is it about me that I don't feel this sexy aliveness? And I remember being in so this program I was in, we had an in-person retreat. And I remember feeling my body for the first time. And I know it sounds kind of weird because we shower all the time, you look at yourself in the mirror, all that jazz. But
Mm-hmm.
it really was the first time I actually felt that I had a body.
Mm.
And it was like this awareness that I had been numb for so long, like just ignoring my body and what she had to offer me. And it was that weekend where I declared in front of 15 women that, yeah, my business was not about nutrition anymore, even though I have that background, that my focus was really on teaching women how to really and truly love their bodies as sacred, not just loving your body and eating healthy, but truly understanding the sacredness of the adoration of the female body for ourselves.
Okay, I feel like there's so much to unpack there. Because, okay, first of all, I've never even heard this expression. I had to write it down, marriage encounter group, before. So,
Yes.
okay. So you went, so this is a group that support you. You're all married and you support each other in your marriages. Is that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah. It was actually a Catholic organization.
okay?
Um, and it were different churches in the diocese. So there were probably, I think, 11 churches in the area that I was, the Lisle, Naperville, Woodridge area in Chicago that I was in, that would get together. And there would always be like one couple that
Mm,
would give a presentation. And then at the end, they taught you actually how to communicate with each
okay.
other, which was great because my parents didn't teach me how to communicate.
Sure.
We didn't communicate well with each other, let alone share this example of what a true marriage looked and felt like. Like my parents always, I mean, they're great people,
Mhm.
wonderful servants of Christ, right? But together as a couple, like I didn't see them as who I wanted to be like.
Okay.
And these other couples were shining examples of what it meant to be a spiritually connected, physically connected couple. I mean, some of these couples would actually come in and talk about their sexual escapades, right? Because it's a part of marriage. And it was a
Okay.
way for you to learn from other couples. And then you'd have the opportunity to um, privately share with each other. And then there was like a group sharing circle as well too. So it was a great way to learn about the depths of marriage relationships, how to communicate, how not to communicate. And I really do feel that even though I did get divorced, I learned so much about what to do and what not to do in a relationship because I saw firsthand all of these couples. There was one couple, they have something called daily dialogue, where it's you actually have a question that you write down and you talk about your feelings. You don't talk about the situation.
Okay.
And you both have the same question. You write down your answer at some point during the day, and then you let your spouse read it. And it's called 10 and 10. So you spend 10 minutes writing,
Mhm.
and then you spend 10 minutes dialoguing about it.
Okay. And the purpose of the exercise is to learn communication skills or to showcase how different people interpret things differently? Because I imagine both
Yeah.
of those things happen.
It's all of the above. So one is it's a framework for communication, but also teaches you how to use feeling words to get
Mm.
more into the emotion as opposed to the situation
Oh,
itself.
got it. Got it. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
so interesting because if I had to write a list of feelings, okay, I could do it now, but only because of the work that I do. I
Mhm.
don't know that I don't know that I would be so connected to my feelings,
Yeah.
right? That's so interesting. And so, okay, so you're in this group and you felt your body for the first time. I'm just so like, that's just such, I've never heard anyone describe that before. And but also I can relate to it because I remember when I left corporate and started coaching, I remember being in groups of coaches that were really, really connected to themselves. Like they'd been doing this for a really long time and they were super connected to themselves and their feelings and their body. And you could just tell when they spoke that they embodied their whole being. And it seemed so foreign to me because I was so disconnected from myself and my body and all of those things. So tell me a little bit about like what was going through your mind during that time, because you said you felt your body for the first time and you announced that this is going to be your life's work.
Yeah.
So I feel like you skipped a few things there.
Well, okay. Yeah. So I guess there's another big piece that was there. So, one of the pieces of my journey is that I was raped and pregnant at 16, and had a miscarriage. And always knew that. But when I was through this program, what actually came up for me was memories of being abused by my grandfather as a little girl. So there was a lot of trauma, emotion around the physical body being objectified, being taken advantage of. So there were pieces of me during that retreat that realized that I had been like numbing myself from even wanting to be intimate with my husband. Like he didn't want it. I didn't want it. I mean, I lived pretty much in a sexless marriage for 20 years, minus 4 children, but it was one of those things where it wasn't important to either one of us. He went and did his thing. I went and did my thing. That intimacy, that connection, like, wasn't there. And for me, I think it was like, I realized that, oh my gosh, like I shut myself off from this part of me and made my entire body completely numb. And I didn't know it until these memories started surfacing. Like, I mean, I knew the whole teenage pregnancy thing, etc. But I don't think I ever went through the healing journey of processing what happened to me, what happened to my body, etc. Like it happened and I ended up having a miscarriage. So I brushed it off. I didn't tell anybody.
Right? Wait. Sorry. So I feel like you talk so fast over the important parts.
Okay.
So you were raped and pregnant at 16, yes? And you didn't tell anyone about this experience? Is that what happened?
Yeah. It was a date rape of a guy who I had dated, and I didn't tell anybody because I'm the good Catholic girl. Right? Like,
okay.
This doesn't, because I had been with the man before, right? But that particular time, like, no, like we're done. Like, I'm not going to be with you. And he didn't take a no for an answer. So it was kind of one of those, if I even said anything, like my parents would have said, oh, well, were you with him? You know what I mean? Like, it would have been like, oh, well, you deserved that.
Oh,
right?
wow.
Because you had sex prior to being married. Like, you called this in for yourself, right? So there was so much shame around the experience itself. And I think, and I've talked with a lot of other women who have had the same thing where you say no, but yet you let it happen anyway, type of thing.
I have so much to say about that.
I know.
Oh my gosh. I didn't think the conversation was going to go here.
I didn't know where we were going either, but hey, I'm an open book.
I mean, admittedly, I just didn't think this is where the conversation was going to go, but we're going to roll with it. We're going to roll with it because I think it's important. So, wow. Okay. So this happened when you were 16 and you brushed it off. You got married when how old were you when you got married?
22.
Okay. So then you got married at 22. How old were you when you had this? You felt your body for the first time?
40.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So you were 40 years old when you felt your body for the first time. Now, when you say you felt your body for the first time, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So basically, what I, it was like, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It was like I had this moment in the women in the program. They're like, go put on a sexy robe and just like go and enjoy your body. And it was literally like literally massaging and caressing my
Mm,
body. It was like it had never been, I'm gonna say, lovingly touched before.
mm, mm,
But I mean, if I think about sex with my husband previously, it wasn't like what I know and experience, that safety and touch, right? To really be about. So it was like giving myself this loving, tender caresses. Like
mhm,
it's like I remember, but I don't remember like all of the specific activities, right?
mhm,
But like literally like using my hands, because our hands have energy and power, and sending and giving healing love to all parts of
mhm,
my body. And it
mhm,
was like my body, I don't want to say like lit up. It was almost like when you turn the switch on in a room, you turn the light
mhm. The
on.
light, yeah.
That's what it felt like in my body. It was like this light came on in my body that was numb and off for years, but I didn't know it, because when you're in that rat race, the day-to-day life, you
Yeah.
have no idea of what you're missing until you actually physically experience it.
Mm, wow. Wow. Okay. So you decided you're going to so how did that evolve into a business? Like how did that one experience
Yeah.
evolve into a business?
So it was actually at that point when I decided that I didn't want to live a numb life anymore.
Mm,
Like I wanted to explore my sensuality, my sexuality. Like I wanted to be a physically intimate partner with my husband.
mhm,
And that's when I decided I want to do this sexual healing journey.
okay.
And then over the last decade, have taken courses, studied with mentors, practiced things, like done so many things under the sun to open up these floodgates. And the thing is, I didn't have a map. It wasn't like somebody said, "Here you go," right? I was like, "Okay, yes, I want to heal this part of me, but I'm not sure what to do and where to go, because I'm the good Catholic girl.
Mm,
And how do I start exploring this when I'm not even quite sure what I'm exploring, because
sure.
nobody
Yeah.
taught me, right?" And because I declared that, it was like new opportunity would show up one after the other, but slowly. And then I would have to say to myself, okay, does this feel good?
Mm,
Or does this not? And it was weird. It was like this is where the whole religious piece then gets added to it,
yeah.
because it was like this religious suppression of, you shouldn't want to feel this sexual intimacy. Like that's wrong, that's bad. So
Mhm,
it's like I had these feelings inside my body, feeling like there was this suppressed desire, but yet not knowing how to handle it and what to do about it and who to even talk to.
mm,
So um it was like I would get introduced to people, because I was in this like group with women
mhm,
of this retreat program, right? Some of them, gave me some resources, and I was like, okay, well, I don't know who this is, but okay, like I can follow somebody, right? I can go on their email list, right? I mean, I even remember the first time I bought a jade egg. Um, I bought it for stress incontinence, because I thought, oh, okay, you're talking about sexuality and sensuality, but like I can relate to that stress and continence thing over here. And if it does all of these things, like that's pretty cool. Um, and I bought the thing and I let it sit for like 3 or 4 years because I'm like, I don't know, am I supposed to do this thing? So it's weird because it's like opportunities show up
Mm-hmm.
and this itch to say yes, and then it's like retracting
Yeah.
because we're afraid of so many things, like afraid of what someone else is going to say or do, or afraid you're going to do it wrong, or afraid that it's against God,
Mm-hmm.
right? That it's sinful to be wanting to even explore this piece of me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was like because of being part of the marriage encounter community and them being very open about things. And there was just this spark in my soul that was like, there's more.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I had no clue what I was doing and I didn't have like a coach and mentor like guide me through a process,
Mm-hmm.
I opened up my field to allow things to come into my space to test things out, try things out. And it's been an amazing healing journey of healing the sexuality and the shame around it, but also this religious suppression piece of, is this from God or the devil? Right? Just in
Mm-hmm.
general, right? Of, okay, like it was really, I would say it was a very deep spiritual awakening because it was getting in touch with my body, but also connecting more deeply with spirit at the same time.
So interesting. As you were talking about your experience, I was just thinking that this is the same correlation to pretty much anything in life, right? It's just another part of us and who we
Mhm.
are. Because even if we're talking about, like, I'm just going to bring back to business careers just for a second, but we'll go back to the
Yeah.
topic is, you're in a career, right? Like a corporate career, you're in a corporate career, I'm in a corporate career. We want to do other things, but we're afraid of what will people think, right? And that's kind of like super, super external. What will other
Sure.
people think? We don't even know how we think. But this is even deeper because it's like religion,
Mhm.
is sometimes a part of, you feel like it's a part of who you are, right? Because that's how you're brought up. I mean, you and I were both brought up in a religious
Yeah.
families, right? And so no one wants to get kicked out of their family,
Right.
right? So how did you, I'm really curious, how did you navigate that? Like how did you navigate feeling like, oh, I'm feeling alive, but this other part of me might have to die? Like I know it's not
Yeah.
life and death, but I mean that's how I felt when I moved
Yeah.
into entrepreneurship, right? I was like,
Right.
oh, this the corporate me has to die so this entrepreneur can grow. I mean, it's all
Yeah.
sort of this beautiful web.
It's interesting because it's like there was a part of me that knew that this was my calling, but yet I didn't know how I was gonna get there. And I
Mm,
would say the first few years were really more, I'm gonna call it a religious battle of, is this from God or the devil? Right? So it wasn't necessarily, I didn't dive into sexuality in the first few years.
mhm,
It was, let me dip my toe in and is this okay? Right?
mhm,
Like the good Catholic girl, even like the first book that I wrote is called The Good Girl, right?
mm,
It is all of the social, cultural, religious conditioning
mhm,
that holds us back from our sexual freedom. And it's like I felt this so deeply that it was like I wanted to talk to people, but I didn't have a lot of people to talk to
mm,
about it because everybody I knew was Catholic.
mhm,
Um, and again, it was this, curiosity, this desire and this curiosity to just dive in further. And it's like, it's weird because it's like the religion and the sexuality kind of like helped each other out in the process. I like to say my faith held me back, but my faith pulled me through. That like when I did explore something with my body and I allowed myself to start feeling safer in my body, I was able to see and feel into some of these religious beliefs that I didn't even know they were religious beliefs, right? It was just like, is this from God or the devil? And the more I connected with the physical body, the more I was able to feel more connected with spirit and going, wait a minute, you know what? No, this is from God. This isn't from the devil. Like there was one example I remember when I came back from my retreat and I wanted to investigate like a new church because I was trying to find like my church home. And I remember going into a Christian worship place, do a Bible study or whatever. And I remembered it feeling negative. It was like all about the devil. And it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is, it's like I could tell stories, but you have to experience. So when I was in, whatchamacallit, when I was at this retreat with like 15 women that were not Catholic, and they were like, oh, well, let's do plant medicine. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, you want me to do drugs? Like, you people are crazy, right? But there's like a part of me that felt safe, right? Like I knew I was in an environment that felt safe, even though they weren't Catholic and religious. And I like using these two examples because I had to discern in the moment what felt good and what didn't feel good in my body. So here I had a situation where there were people that were not Catholic, and I was like, scared fucking shitless, but felt safe at the same time. Then I go back to home, go to a Christian place of worship and feel ick. And for the first time, I was like, well, this is wild because I was raised in a completely Catholic community. Everybody, all the friends were Catholic, right? Like everything my parents did was through the church. So to be in a Christian place and feel not good and feel like this energy, I was like, okay, God, what kind of journey you got me on now? Because this is wild. But I had to experience. It wasn't, let me just read the book, right? Like it was read the book, but put yourself out there into the wild, I guess you could say, and feel what it feels like when you're in the presence of this type of energy versus this type of energy. Don't label it as Christian, non-Christian.
Sure.
Right? Like I remember there was a time after I came back from this retreat, and there was a woman who was a psychic medium, and there was another woman who was a tantric lady. And I was so attracted to both of them. They had great energy. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to get to know you. And at the end of the meeting, there was a woman that came up to me, very Christian, profound woman. And she said, Jen, you need to stay away from those people. They're from the devil.
Those people
are from the devil. And I was like, are you kidding me? They were like the nicest, sweetest ladies. What are you talking about? And she's like, Jen, she goes, I pray for them daily. And this is a Christian woman I respected. And was like, wait a minute, God, what are you doing? Like, I'm so confused, right? Like, what am I doing here with this battle of what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And I remember walking out of there, and I actually drove past the chapel on my way home, and I stopped in and was like, God, will you please help me? Because I don't know what to do here. Like, I feel like I'm split in two, and I don't know which way is the right way, right? Because in Catholicism, you have a right and a wrong way, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And later on that evening, I remember I was Googling, like, psychic median in the Bible. Like, is it wrong? Right? Like, just like looking for answers. And then the best thing was I had another dear friend reach out, very Christian woman. And she's like, Jen, she's like, I have somebody who I want you to meet. She's like, I just had lunch with her, or, you know, whatever it was. And she said, I think she'd be a great connection for you. And it was one of those two women.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
And
interesting.
in that moment, I knew in my body, like I could feel the knowing that this was God's answer to me. Like, these ladies aren't wrong. They're not bad. They're not from the devil.
Right.
But my upbringing and my religion told me there were. So there were lots of experiences like that, I'd say very profound for the first few years before I could even really dive deep into the healing, because there was this cloud of, you're going to go to hell if you do
Right.
this.
Right. You had to really like deprogram yourself, right? Because I mean, I liken it, like religious programming, to corporate programming, like what's right, what's wrong, how, you know, how can you be a good person if you've behaved in a certain way? Like all of it's kind of BS, right? I mean, we're all born good people, and then we're programmed to believe that one way is right and one way is wrong. But is it really?
Right.
Right? Like whether we're talking about religion or we're talking about anything, we've been taught from childhood, right? I think we can all agree that little beautiful babies, when they come into the world, they are absolutely perfect, right? But then at what stage do we become imperfect?
Right.
Right? Like we're never imperfect, but we put all these conditions on ourselves and these like terms around what makes us good and what makes us bad, right? Behaviors. Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, I'm just fascinated by all of it. How do you think disconnecting from our bodies and our desires impacts our confidence and how we show up in the world and how we show up in relationships, whether those are romantic relationships or just relationships like you and I are friends?
Yeah. I mean, I really think that connecting with our body does a couple of things. One, it allows you to feel more comfortable in who you are, right? Just confident in your body to be able to walk into a room and claim your value, claim your worth. There's also the piece, though, that allows you to connect more deeply with spirit. And I feel that like a lot of women struggle in this arena because we're not like honoring our bodies as sacred. It's like we feel like they're disgusting, or we're overweight, or there are things we don't like about the physicalness of our body. And we can say to ourselves till we're blue in the face in the mirror, I love myself. But if you don't feel it underneath, it's a completely different experience. There was a client of mine who said, no, Jen, I've got the whole thing, the body thing done. Like, I love myself, right? Like, I'm good. And then she took a dance class. And she called me up and was like, okay, I really thought I had this body thing down. She's like, I'm nowhere close. So I think we fool ourselves. we know that we're supposed to love our bodies.
Yeah.
We don't want to hate our bodies, but because society puts so much around body positivity because of all of the objectification of our bodies, I feel like we fool ourselves into believing that we truly love our bodies. It's like putting lipstick on a pig, right? Like you can try to make it look pretty, but if underneath you don't really feel it and connect with it, then we are doing ourselves a disservice.
So when you say, because you said this a few times throughout this conversation, like the sacredness, you've used the word sacred. What does sacred mean to you?
Yeah, that's a
And
really
how
good
do you
question.
connect to that? Because I'm resonating with everything you're saying. And I know my audience will be like, okay, well, but how do you do that? Because we're not, and I know, like, right? But I can imagine that people who are listening to this, that's what they're thinking. That's great, Jen. I love my body. I've done all the work. I'm good. I personally, I've said that a gajillion times. I'm good. But how, right? I also know we're supposed to disconnect from the how, but like our logical brain wants to take over, right?
Yes.
So
Well,
what can we do to connect to ourselves? And let's start with the whole sacred thing, because I feel like that needs to be defined a little bit.
No. I think it's a really good point, because when I think of something as being sacred, it's something that you would worship, that you would treasure, that you would cherish, that you would honor. And there are many things that we can do for that, but it's like, I don't know if you have like a little altar, like in your room, right? In your house or your office type of thing, but they're like prized possessions that we like take care of, and we, I want to say good things about. There's intentions. There are like taking care of something like a precious gem. Like it's weird. Like I almost think, I don't know why this is coming up, but I'm just thinking about a baby. Like when a baby is born, they're precious. They're sacred. Like you want to kiss them.
Yes.
You want to snuggle with them. You want to put powder on their little butts, right? Like you want to use your hands and like pinch their cheeks and just touch their skin, not from an abusive perspective, but it's truly like honoring and loving this baby. Like I even think of doing like little piggy goes to the market, right? Like,
right.
you're doing reflexology on a baby when you are doing this little piggy goes to market. You're actually hitting acupressure points in the body when you're doing that. We make it a playful game, but we're actually using our own hands to provide healing to the baby's body, right? So, but we dress up our children, right? Like how many moms out there that go out and buy cute little outfits for their daughters or their sons, right? Doesn't matter, girl or boy, right? Like we adorn our children. We put bows in their hair. We buy them cute little outfits and accessories and things like that to make them look pretty. Same thing for boys too, right? Like let's let this get this cute little outfit. It's a little different for boys than girls, but still, right? Like we also have people who have pets. Like if somebody doesn't have a child, but they have a pet, they take care of their pets. They honor, cherish, they pet your pets, right? Like you touch them, like you want to snuggle with them, connect with them, walk with them. And I feel like we spend more time honoring babies and dogs than we do our own bodies. Like what if we cherished and adorned our body the way that we treated a baby or a dog?
That's interesting. I definitely don't do that.
And
right? I mean, I think it's,
yeah,
I don't know it. I mean, maybe you do that, but I don't know anybody that does that. So that's really interesting. And why don't we do that? You know, why don't we treat ourselves with the same reverence that we would treat
yes.
a baby, right? We're
So
so judgy.
yeah, it's weird because we've learned about reverence in church, right? But the reverence is to Christ. The reverence is from a God, Jesus, spiritual perspective that you can't touch, right? So faith has taught us about the reverence piece, but more from a spiritual perspective. Whereas when we think about the physical nature, right, we revere our babies and dogs, but not our own bodies and ourselves. But tell me a woman who doesn't have a deep desire to be loved, honored, cherished, and treasured by her man
Or woman.
or woman. Yes. Like we all want that. And we're always searching for this outside of us. We want that other partner to cherish us, to make us a priority, to love us. And many women end up not finding that because they're looking for it outside of themselves rather than being that. When we start to learn how to be that for ourselves, we can then call that in. And then we don't need, there are some women who will connect, find a man, and they feel great. Right? It's a wonderfully orgasmic, amazing experience. But then we continue to go outside of ourself for that feeling. When we can cultivate that within ourselves, we can cultivate that sacredness, that love, that attention, that cherishing within our own bodies. And then when you can do that, and then you're with a conscious man or woman, right, whoever your partner is, and then you come together, that is where sacred sexuality really comes into play. It's two whole people coming together, not trying to get something or be fulfilled from the other person, but to create more and more love. And I think most women would not think that they were doing that because it's subconscious. But when you can actually have an experience to where two people are whole and complete within themselves, and then they come together and you just create, you're not expecting or taking something from the other, you're like exchanging energy, and it's from overflow, and it just creates more and more. So this is where too, like I have seen when women can tap into this depth within themselves, you can use your sexual energy for creativity. You can actually make more money by connecting with that sacred part of ourselves. I know I'm kind of going off on another tangent over here.
Okay, well, I'm gonna bring it back because I know if people are listening, they're thinking, okay, so where do I start? Like, how do I do this without? I mean, let's remember we're streaming on LinkedIn, but I don't want them to like, you know, put the little asterisk all around and like not get to the good stuff. But like, how can we cultivate that embodiment? Because I believe you. Like I know this. Well, my experience is this is true, right? Because I was single for a very long time, and now I've been with my amazing partner we're going on 4 years now, but I would not have met him. None of this would have happened had I not been happy with myself, and had I not been in a place of healing as well. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was an accident or a coincidence. I think he came when I was ready. And so I'm curious what you have to say about all of this, because I do believe that really, being able to connect to this part of us does call in our desires, and that doesn't necessarily need to look like a partner. Like you said, it could look like,
correct.
It could be more money. It could be, I want my business opportunities. I want to get out of this corporate job I'm in, like whatever it is. Where will we start if this is the first we're hearing of all of this and we're like a little skeptical?
Yeah.
And also want to lean in.
So the first thing is deciding and making a choice that this is something that's important to you. Because if you don't decide that you want to explore this, you won't be open to I don't want to say steps to take, but the actions to take.
Sure.
To do that. And that's why I think it was so important at the beginning of this when I said, I decided I want to heal this piece of me. It's kind of like when you want to heal your money wounds, you decide, I'm doing this. Like, I really want to. So that's the first step of saying, yes, I want to do this. And then the next is start having a conversation, right? This is why I'm so vocal about this topic, because we need to create a space where people can have open conversations and dialogue to even understand what questions they may not know they have. Right? So sometimes I will share more because people don't know what questions to ask. And if you hear a story and you can go, oh, I kind of relate to that kind of feels like me. Like if there's if anybody's listening here and there's a curiosity, if you feel a curiosity, I would honor that. Right? And say, there's more for me here, to then allow yourself to have the conversation, to listen to a podcast on the topic, to grab a book on the topic. I mean, I've got lots that I can provide. I mean, like I even have my entire book series, right, that I have available as an online course that people can do on their own, right? Where if you don't want to have a conversation, that's okay. You can do a course. Like, that's some of the things I did. Like, I took programs. One of the first programs I took was called The Pleasure CEO. And it was an online course. I didn't talk to anybody, right? Like, I learned, I soaked up information at the beginning part of my journey until I was ready to have a conversation. So you can go one of both ways. You can go the route of finding a course, finding a book, starting to read, starting to be curious. Or you can dive right in and say, you know what? I want to do this, and have a mentor help you through it. Because I think what I've done is I took the route of, let me try to figure this out on my own because I have no clue what the hell I'm doing. Right? Type of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm here to help guide women through so that it won't take them 5 years, 10 years. I can't tell anybody how long it's going to take them, right? But like, it's a faster journey when you can have a mentor that can be with you along the way. Some of the other things I would recommend are doing activities where you're physically in your body, which is one of the reasons I talk about dance all the time. I teach a modality that's called chakra dance, which I like to say it's meditation on steroids. Because so many women I know say, I struggle to meditate. I can't sit still. And chakra dance is an internal dance practice. It's a movement practice if people don't like the word dance. Where right?
I love dancing.
Yeah. But for those that don't, right? But you physically are in your body and you're connecting all of your senses. So a lot of times what happens is we need to break through that blood-brain barrier to get to the subconscious mind. And sometimes when you're sitting and meditating and you're like this, and you're thinking about your grocery list and you know how you got to take your kids somewhere or whatever it is, you got these things racing. When chakra dance involves multiple senses, and as women, we are sensory beings. We process through the body, not through the mind. So when we are able to connect sight, because your eyes are closed, but you're visualizing, hearing, because you're listening to the music, you're listening to the guided prompts. Three, what is the other one? Hearing, smell. You could actually have a diffuser on, like I got my little white diffuser back there. Like you could have a diffuser with oils to have the scent. And then of course you have the movement of the body. And then if you want, you can like touch your hands, your arms. You don't have to, but you can. So you have 4 senses that you're using all at the same time. And it allows you to drop into the body so that you're not thinking. And it's just a practice. It's not the only practice, but I have seen it's a way for women to get out of their head, drop into their bodies, and to release the energy that's stuck, that's not serving, but then open up to a space of connecting with spirit and being an open channel and an open vessel for things to come in. And I really believe that like the more senses that you can incorporate at a time, it actually helps to get to the subconscious. There's a lot of breath work that can be done outside of chakra dance, right? But like just laying in your bed, doing breath work and combining it with the touch of your hands, like that in itself can be extremely powerful when there's that focused intention behind it. It's creating, like I would say, that sacred container, right? So like chakra dance is not something that you're going to dance disco music to and go, woohoo, right? It's a reverent dance, right? So it goes back to that treating the body as sacred. Same thing with more of a breath work or a laying down touch practice. You can do something where you put your hand on your heart and one on your womb space and breathe and feel into that connection between the heart and that womb space.
I've done breath work. I mean, quite a few times. Some of it scares me though. I'm not going to lie. Like, is it so powerful that it's almost too much at once for me. I feel like I need something a little to ease
Softer.
into it. Yeah, a little softer, a little softer. And I know I gravitated towards towards that energy because
Yes.
Was really, really in my masculine for a very long time. So how has this, I want to be mindful of time. How has this shift, from being disconnected from yourself to, being more in your body, connected to your body? How has that changed your life? Because I know that it's changed your life drastically, but maybe how it's changed your life, and then maybe give me an example of a client's life, how it helps them.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I've allowed myself to feel alive, to really like enjoy being in my body, enjoying my sexuality, like being intimate with a partner, right? And enjoying that. I mean, that's just a piece. The other thing too is I show up different. as who I am.
Mm.
And my kids see it, feel it as well too. So like healing this part of me is not just for me. It actually helps the growth of my children as well and creates opportunities for them energetically,
Mm.
right? That
Mm-hmm.
we may not realize. It's not something you made the decision for that says, "Oh, I'm going to help my child with this."
Sure.
It's you are being you, you're healing that next level of you. And when you shift, because you're connected with your children, they shift as
Mm.
well. I'll give an example of a client who happily married, but not really like intimate with her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, she would ask me questions and I would say, okay, well, when's the last time you actually were with your husband? And she'll say, oh, like 6 months ago.
Mm.
Like physically intimate, even just like cuddling, snuggling, like not necessarily the act itself,
Mm-hmm.
but just any kind of intimacy. And she's like, and then she'll decide to like open up and say, okay,
Mm.
honey, you know what? Like let's have a romantic evening together. And every time she does this, she calls me up and says, I just got 2 new clients.
Mm. Oh, interesting. Interesting. And why do you think that is? I mean, I feel like I know my answer. Why do you think that
Yeah.
is?
Um, Part of it is clearing the energy
The
that's not
energy.
serving,
That's
right?
blocking, right? Because
It's
you have to
blocking.
become open to receiving. Mm-hmm.
Correct. So it's clearing that energy, and then you then are in your creation energy mode because you've cleared the energy, and
Mm-hmm.
now you're in this space of being open to receive. That we as women block our receiving channel
Mm-hmm.
more often than not, and we don't realize that the things that we're doing or not doing
Mm-hmm.
are blocking that receiving channel from coming in. I mean, there are practices that um that they're called like sex magic, right? Like you don't actually have to be having the physical act, but going through and visualizing and imagining and clearing the energy within each of the different chakras of the body and having a sacred intention around what you want to manifest. Like it's actually a manifesting tool.
Interesting.
I know.
Interesting. Oh my gosh. Okay, I want to be mindful of time because we're
Yes.
coming up to the hour. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you, learn more about you, learn more about your work? How can we get in touch?
Yes, yes. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm definitely here. I also have a uh, website that's called The Freedom Keys. You can find all sorts of information there. I also have a podcast. I'm actually in the process of rebranding it though, so that'll be coming out soon. But
Ooh,
right now, it is called The Sensual Feminine Life. It's been out there for like 2 years. There's like 120 episodes or something like that. You can binge listen.
wow.
Um, and yeah, those are the probably the easiest places to find me. And my book series that people can dive into as online courses, etc. That's all on my website.
Love it. Love it. Okay, my final question. I just started asking this to people. Is there any question that you wish I would have asked you that I didn't?
Oh man, that's tough because you asked some really good questions because I threw you for a loop as to where we're going.
It's all good. You don't have, I just want to make sure that if there's
Yeah.
anything, that we've said everything, you feel like you've said everything you wanted to say.
I mean, I think it might just be more of a statement than a question of I wish people understood the power of this work. That I think sometimes it can be like a last resort.
Mm.
But if we actually focus on this work and this healing, we can actually heal health issues. Gosh, I didn't even get into that part. There are many people who have overcome a variety of different health issues by focusing on healing their sexuality and focusing on embracing pleasure.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Jen, for hanging out with us today and sharing your love and your light and your wisdom. We have a message here from, I can't even see because I don't have my glasses on. Nestivo says, hello, lovely's great to listen to you both. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us this past hour. We appreciate you. Have a great day, everyone. Jen, thank you so much again. It was so fun hanging out with you this past hour. And we'll have to do this again.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
Yeah, thanks so much. All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place for The Bold Leap. Bye for now.